Hello and welcome back to Direct Capital channel, and welcome to today's video about Bitcoin and its bull market. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and let's dive into the video without further ado. This is a very interesting topic because many people ask me still to this day whether we're in a Bitcoin bull market, and it's interesting to me because that's exactly how human psychology works. There isn't going to be a point in this Bitcoin bull market where people won't doubt that Bitcoin is in a bull market. That's just how it works. That's how psychology works. But in today's video, I just want to talk about why Bitcoin is in a bull market by analyzing its previous market cycles. So let's go ahead and do that. Of course, this is an article on my website, rectcapital.co. You can check it out in more detail in the articles section. And of course, I have another article there, Bitcoin market cycles, everything you need to know. That will talk about all the market cycles in Bitcoin's price history. Today we're going to be focusing on only a few of those, but the ones that are quite important for us to just distinguish and understand why we're in a new bull market. Of course, I talk about a new wave of interest for Bitcoin, and of course we have Libra. Microsoft announced it is building on the blockchain. But in any case, we've had a lot of interesting developments in terms of catalysts and fundamental analysis, fundamental news that's positive for Bitcoin going forward. And of course, these catalysts have spurred on impressive growth in Bitcoin's price action since. But of course, as you guys know, I love to look at the charts. I love to look at the technicals, and I love to look at the psychology that is deeply embedded in the price action on these price charts. So I always look at Bitcoin's market cycles, the technical price action. And whenever we think about Bitcoin's price action, we always see booms and we always see busts. Price action to the upside and then price action to the downside. Bull markets and bear markets. And one bull market and one bear market is called a market cycle. And every market cycle has a bull market up, then it has a bear market down, and then it has a ranging period. So every single market cycle will have one bull market, or at least one uptrend, one bear market, so that's one downtrend, and then one period of consolidation, one ranging period, one period of accumulation. So basically speaking, a ranging period followed by an uptrend and then a downtrend is one market cycle, and hopefully this will allow for a better visualization of what I'm just talking about here. These are the past two market cycles for Bitcoin. So this is a bear market, a ranging period, and then a bull market, in the same way that we are now in a new market cycle altogether. So this is one bear market, and this is the ranging period, and then this is the uptrend. So of course we are mid-market cycle, we've had the ranging period, and we're now enjoying the uptrend. Of course, this article was written a few weeks ago because here we have 20 weeks and counting. But in any case, right over here, this is the first bear market, or at least the bear market in the market cycle that we're going to be looking at. So that's going to be the most impressive market cycle, because here we have the most devastating bear market for Bitcoin. 58 weeks of constant downtrending and some relief rallies to the upside, but ultimately new lows every time, followed by that bottom, that wicking bottom to the downside. People are very much interested in accumulating at these regions, followed by 40 weeks of consolidation, pretty much sideways action, where people are just accumulating, slowly but surely exchanging Bitcoin with one another, buyers and sellers just doing some negotiation over a period of 40 weeks before breaking out of this range. And I'm going to explain to you why this bear market isn't the most devastating bear market to date, because that's definitely what many people were saying. But if you actually look at how these market cycles are formed, a downtrend and then a ranging period and then an uptrend, many people won't conceptualize market cycles that way, but I truly believe this is the way to think about them. Because here we had 51 weeks of downtrending and here we had 58 weeks of downtrending. But of course, what we had over here, for instance, is we had a bottom and then we had a higher low and then a higher low again and then a higher low again. So what I want to say here is that in this ranging period, we had a lot of accumulation going on, and fundamentally the psychology in this ranging period was was shifting. It simply changed because people were suddenly buying Bitcoin at higher and higher and higher prices. So essentially speaking, if you just imagined a black uptrending line, or whatever color really, I just use black trending uptrend lines. If you just applied a trend line this way, you'd notice there's a higher low, which essentially means that people are buying at a premium. People are more likely to buy at higher and higher prices. So this accumulation period is very promising because we tend to see this sort of buy action at higher and higher prices. And of course, people who were saying that we were in the most devastating bear market ever were saying this around here and here and here. So it's very easy to just forget about the fact that we had a higher low here. This higher low essentially showed to us that people are very happy to not buy at 3,200 where the bottom was, but people are suddenly more happy to buy at 3,400 or 3,500. They just can't wait for price to dip any lower because people really don't want to miss out on a chance of another rally. That's essentially what happens in that psychology. People want to buy quicker and not wait for lower prices because they don't want to miss out on another rally to the upside. So in any case, each ranging period, whenever it resolves, it always breaks past a very key resistance. Now this is a very strong resistance right over here. And of course, as you guys know, and I often talk about on this channel, previous resistance always turns into a new support at another time in the future. So this is a resistance, a very key resistance for this accumulation period, because every time we saw Bitcoin's price action reach here, it rejected to the downside. Reach here, it rejected to the downside. Reach here, it rejected to the downside. But after those rejections, these resistances weaken over time. So right over here, once we saw a breakout past this resistance, we saw a beautiful uptrend, but that wasn't a confirmed uptrend only until we saw a flip, a turn of this old resistance into a new support that really kickstarted that uptrend, or at least confirmed that uptrend. So right over here, we saw a breakout to start a new bull market. But it was only at this point where previous resistance turned into a new support that we saw a confirmed bull market. And exactly the same thing happens over here, guys. That if you see 4,150 was that region where we saw a lot of resistance for Bitcoin, it got rejected over here and then tumbled all the way here. Then it got rejected even stronger right over here. And of course, if you guys see over here, this resistance is still acting as a form of rejection, even in the bear trend. So we're seeing a lot of rejection even over here in this wick. But once we see a breakout to the upside, we see a bear trend, or at least a new bull market start. And the reason we're not seeing a beautiful flip of an old resistance into a new support in this bull market is that it simply happened on lower time frames. So in that case, we saw a beautiful test of that old resistance into a new support. We saw that on the weekly time frame, but over here you can simply see that on the lower time frames. And ever since then, we've seen a fantastic rally to the upside, over 300%, which actually is very similar to the rally that we saw prior to halving 2, prior to July 2016. So you can check my video about the halving in the top right hand corner, but for the time being, this is why we are in a new bull market, because we've essentially broken out of a ranging period, a period of consolidation, a period of accumulation among bargain hunters. And the bargain hunters were accumulating here. Of course, they started accumulating at higher levels because they couldn't wait for price to dip any lower. They didn't want to miss out on anything. So they are accumulating around this region. But once this range high, or at least this ranging period, is broken, once we see this accumulation zone get broken with a breakout to the upside, we suddenly start to see varying degrees of FOMO. So FOMOers, of course, would love to start the uptrend over here, but FOMOers tend to prolong uptrends. So of course, we see FOMO buy action here and here, and even here. This is the most extreme form of FOMO because we see wicks, and lots of FOMOers get trapped in wicks. So essentially speaking, bargain hunters are the people who kickstart new bull markets. They often start the beginnings of those bull markets with a higher low and a higher low over here as well. But oftentimes later on, it's FOMOers that prolong the new bull market, and it's these FOMOers and this new market interest among new market participants entering the space that prolong the new bull market cycle. And the question I often get, or at least the comment that I often get, is that we're not in a bull market because this all-time high, we're still seeing a lower high relative to this all-time high. And of course, that is true. This is a resistance that we need to breach. It happens to be one of the strongest resistances for Bitcoin, which is around 11,500. This is a very key area that Bitcoin needs to breach for it to see true continuation and really strong FOMO from buyers. And of course, this lower high is absolutely crucial to becoming breached. But that doesn't mean we're not in a bull market, because if we look at this region right over here, this is essentially where we are. We saw a corrective period right over here, and then we started to recover. We started to grind up. And if you just look at the new Bitcoin chart right now, we've of course seen a correction since then, all the way to around 6,500. And then we've of course come back up. We're now at $10,000, which only means that we have already finished the Bitcoin correction and we are now recovering. And of course, if you're talking about the lower high from this all-time high to here, it's true, but this all-time high and lower high all the way to here is also true. But we saw the correction and now we're recovering, and we're seeing the same in this cycle. So we are in a bull market. We just had a bull market correction, the first one very similar to the one we had in the previous cycle, and now we're on our way to breaking past this lower high and really seeing a exponential uptrend, very much like we saw once this high was breached, right? Because once this high was breached over here, then we saw all-time high afterwards. And with the halving catalyst ahead, there are only 70 plus days left until the Bitcoin halving, 78 at this time to be exact. With the halving coming up, after every halving we've seen exponential rallies towards the upside and a new all-time high later on. So I'm very positive that this is a bull market. So I hope that this analysis has given you food for thought in terms of how we should think about the bull market and how we should think about these bear cycles and market cycles in general, because I remember when I published my Bitcoin Market Cycles Everything You Need to Know article back in, well, it was actually a few days before we bottomed at 3,200. I was talking about Bitcoin's history of retraces and that we see these sort of retraces in bear markets for Bitcoin. And it just happens to be the case that this is a recurring figure. 80% also is roughly the amount that we see Bitcoin retrace from its all-time highs in its bear markets. And it was interesting to see that 84.5% is actually the average retrace across all bear markets for Bitcoin. And it's very interesting that we actually got this average retrace, and that's something I spoke about in my Bitcoin Market Cycles Everything You Need to Know article, which I published a few days before we bottomed, also on my rectcapital.co website in the articles section. But we just have to understand that these retraces aren't out of the ordinary. We tend to see them every time. We tend to see bull markets, we tend to see bear markets, and we tend to see ranging periods, and that's just how the market cycle works. But of course, we have to bear in mind that this Bitcoin halving is a fundamental catalyst, one of the most bullish events for Bitcoin's price history and history in terms of its protocol overall. We have to bear in mind that we always see the Bitcoin halving propel Bitcoin into a new bull market. So we are definitely in a bull market, but we just want to see continuation, and that continuation is most likely to happen prior to the halving, a few weeks prior to it. That's at least what history suggests to us. Bitcoin's price history suggests to us. But of course, we're probably going to see a pre-halving retrace because we also tend to see that. And afterwards, that's when we'll really start getting going in terms of Bitcoin's price action. That's when we're going to see the exponential rallies. That's when we're going to see a new all-time high in Bitcoin's price. And afterwards, years from now, we're going to see another bear market. And guys, this bear market is probably going to resemble an 80% plus retrace. So knowing about these market cycles is so important because it removes the emotionality that people have in short-term fluctuations in price. So as long as you understand the market cycles, understand that Bitcoin does retrace, it does rally towards the upside, understanding that there is a cyclicity to the price action and there's a cyclicity in the psychology underpinning this price action. There's a cyclicity to the fear and greed that we see in human psychology. Understanding these fundamental principles will help you get very far in this market as an investor as well as a trader, and that's exactly what I wish for all of you guys watching. Thank you so much for watching today. If you liked this video, please leave a like and of course subscribe for more videos like this. I'm more than happy to keep uploading this content on a daily basis for you to enjoy as long as you find value in it. So if you like this video, please leave a like and of course subscribe for future videos. That's about it for this video. Bitcoin is in a bull market. It's not dead as people like to say on many occasions, and it won't be dead anytime soon. I'm Rekt Capital. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll speak to you very soon.